There are so many podcasts out in the world that are actually making a huge impact in their communities. Today, we have a very special guest, Hollis. He has a podcast that is specifically for disabled folks. And what I love about his show is that it's not just about how we can address the disabilities within us as disabled folks, but we can societally as a whole, all of us, both disabled and not disabled, be able to come together to make a world where we are supporting one another and uplifting one another. Today, Hollis is sharing some of his strategies around going into season 3, some things that he's reconsidering based off feedback, and then kind of fighting with himself around what to do or what not to do as he is shifting the format of his show. I am so grateful to hear what Hollis is doing in the world. I highly recommend that you connect with him. If you are someone who works in this space, then find a way to uplift his voice and share this episode with a friend. Please join me in welcoming Hollis to the podcast. Welcome to Podcasting Unlocked, the show for purpose-driven podcasters. I'm Alicia Galati, founder of Galati Media, and I'm here to share actionable strategies to help you amplify your message and grow your audience. Hello, Hollis. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. If you could start by telling everyone a bit about you, who you are, and about your podcast.
Yes, absolutely, Alicia. Thank you for having me here. My name is Hollis Peirce. I am a disability advocate with congenital muscular dystrophy. I have a master's degree in history and a service medal for my career in disability advocacy. I've completed accessibility audits of multiple local music festivals, as well as launching my own bursary at the Carleton University for disabled students.
That is so powerful. How do you have time for all of that?
I really don't know. I really don't know.
That's awesome. And you can tell by how you're talking about it that it's something you're definitely passionate about. And you have a podcast, so tell us about that too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Called 21st Century Disability. It is a podcast that mainly focuses on the benefits of being disabled in the 21st century and how the, modern technology and the modern world, as I say at the beginning of every episode, is changing the way society sees disability. What I've learned in university is that there are two perspectives of disability. There's the medical model, which is seeing disability from the inside, meaning you are the problem. My podcast looks at disability from the social model, meaning you do have a disability, but it is primarily your environment around you that is causing the barriers to your lifestyle success and things like that.
That is really impactful. And I love that you're doing that. I saw a video recently that really got me thinking. I am someone who has a chronic illness and it's not a visible one. Thankfully, I'm part of a very small percentage that it does not impact my life in any way, but I know that it does for other people. Just thinking about disabilities that are maybe not really noticeable for people and how there's a lot of prejudice against people. I saw this video recently and I thought it was really interesting. Able-bodied person in a world where disability is the priority. This woman is walking across the street and there's people in wheelchairs. The walk sign was a person in a wheelchair. There was a kid and their parent, and the kid was pointing and the parent was like, "No, don't point at the person standing there." They went into a building and they were like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And then the person spoke back in sign language and they were like, "What?" And so it showed that the world disabled folks live in is not tailored for them, and how important it is as a society that we are including everyone in our decisions for these societal services, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Alicia, about invisible disabilities. Invisible people who have an invisible disability really have it have it hard because they have to validate themselves again and again and again. And you might be going into a parking lot and see somebody who can walk pulling out of a disabled parking spot. It may be that they can walk, but maybe they can't walk long distances without chronic pain or things like that.
You never know. One thing that I definitely teach my kids is you never know what someone else is going through. And it's important that we are being kind to everyone no matter what, because you don't know the kind of day they've had or the kind of pain they're in that you just maybe don't know or can't see. I love that you said that about validating because it is true, especially for mental disabilities. My son has autism, but he is a low needs autistic kid. So he is verbal. You would not know from a quick conversation with him that he is autistic, but he is. And there's no getting around that. And so he
Yep.
is going to have to navigate the world and probably will come up against some situations where someone's like, "Well, you're not normal autistic." And he's like, "But that doesn't mean that I'm not." Right?
That disabled.
Right.
You can climb the stairs. Come on.
Who chooses these words, right? Like, you're not that disabled. Come on. Oh, man.
Yeah,
Okay. So I
yeah.
love the premise of your show. I love the impact that it's making. What has been some feedback that you've gotten from people who have listened to your show in the content side of what you're talking about and the power that it has?
Well, you were saying earlier to me how when I started the show out, it was about a year into me living in the hospital. As you can tell behind me, I am in my room in the hospital where I live permanently because of my high care needs as a disabled individual on a ventilator. When I first moved here, I hated the idea. But now that I've been here for multiple years, I can see the benefit of me living here. So when I first moved here, I moved here in the middle of the pandemic, and what I was seeking was an outlet to teach. My goal had always been to get a PhD, become a professor, and teach. The pandemic happened. I had a downturn in my health. I sort of said, okay, I'll create a podcast where I give lectures. People loved it at first. But then my friends and family would say, oh, it's like, this is fantastic information, but it's not you. The medium is not you. I was too scripted as if I was lecturing to people and not conversing with the audience. And now this new season that I'm launching is pretty 100% just me talking with guests, like you and I are talking right now on your podcast.
So the first season was completely just you reading from a script. And now the second season, you're going to have more guests, more interaction to be able to showcase a bit more of your personality. Is that correct?
Yeah, my initial idea was that I would mainly write strips and read them and just give information that way. But then I thought I would still have special episodes where I would have guests on there to talk about their specific disability. And I did that for a couple of disabilities, and people tended to like those episodes more than they were able to connect with my monologue episodes. And because my monologue episodes, it was just like me rapid firing information in a 20-minute span. And it's not to say that I didn't enjoy them. It's just that it was too much at once and too fast and too intense. What people really connect with me as a person is just talking to me. So in now, I guess it's really our second season, but I'm calling it our third season because I've taken 2 gaps in between. This is the third season, and I'm just starting up again. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that so we have a client that does solo episodes as well as guest episodes, and her solo episodes are completely scripted. Now, I like to caveat that with she has a background in voice work. So she has done
Yeah.
commercials for like local hospitals and local businesses, like radio
Yeah.
commercials back in the 90s and early 2000s. Her ability to take a script and like bring life to it I
Yeah.
could not do. I don't think that the average person can do, but it is a great way to initially get your content out there to start talking and say, "Look, I'm gonna do this podcasting. Let's see how it works."
Yeah.
And then you can always change things. And I think that's what I love about podcasting is that we get to grow with it. When I first started my podcast, I was against people having limited series. I was like, if you're a business owner, you need to have a podcast that's going on and on. As time progressed, I was like, that's ridiculous. Anybody can do whatever they want with their show. They get to decide what that looks like. And a limited series is a great strategy, especially for busy entrepreneurs, right? And so I'm allowed to change my mind. And I was very clear with my audience hey, I've changed my mind about this. And I don't believe this anymore. So sorry if you listen to those past episodes because they're a bit condemning in that way. But here's what I believe now. And so I like that you're kind of shifting and trying new things. Now, I am curious, are you going to still sprinkle in some solo episodes for that season?
It's funny you should say that because I am contemplating whether or not I do that still. My team, as I like to call them, like my producer and where I used to go to his I have a friend who used to be my personal care attendant and he's an actor professionally. He's got a studio in his condo. And so I used to go to his studio to record my monologue episode podcasts. I would write them and get them edited by a friend of mine who I met in grad school, and he has a PhD. So he prefers my monologue episodes, and it's just hilarious how he is of the opinion that me having more episodes with guests and, that way I don't have to take as long to edit or research and just depend on conversation. He likes to call that a crutch. And and it's funny. I am heavily influenced by him and his opinions. I have other friends from grad school as well, and they're telling me, "Oh, Sandy isn't always right." I'm like, "Okay."
I usually recommend to people and take my opinion or leave it, right? For anyone who's listening, how I tend to approach it is what feels comfortable for you. If you're not comfortable with solo episodes, then slowly working up to them, right? But clearly you're comfortable since you've done 2 seasons with it. Doing it maybe at least once a month or every other month as just a way to also remind your audience, "Hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm an expert in this. This isn't just about, yes, I want to be able to showcase other disabilities and I want to be able to showcase other people's stories, but how can I also build my own thought leadership or business around this and use the podcast to get notoriety for yourself as the host
Ab
as well?"
Absolutely, and I also promote myself as a public motivational speaker. I was using that as a medium to get that business going. I am finding that my audience likes it way more when it's not just me monologuing, and my listening numbers are shooting up. I don't know whether that's a combination of me changing the system or also working more on connecting with my audience through social media, newsletters, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be any number of things, right? So we've seen podcast guesting as a really great way to increase your numbers. And so you being here kind of works as well. I noticed that One thing you can look for when looking at the data, and this is for anyone who's listening and finding the same thing, one thing we look at is when listeners come to listen, so maybe your guest really overshares their episode, they're excited about it, they bring a bunch of people, then looking at that month, that week or two after that episode spikes to see what other episodes are really popular. And that'll tell you if that audience is coming in and then binging some of your solo episodes as well. We had a client do that where she was like, wait, those episodes are a couple months old. Why did they do better then than they did when they first went live? And so
Yeah,
we looked at the numbers and the data to kind of see what happened here. And that's one thing that we noticed. And so that's why looking at your numbers, just being like, oh, cool, lots of downloads. What do I do with this information can feel a little frustrating, but hopefully
yeah,
that helps you a little bit.
absolutely. Well, I live in a hospital and I promote my podcast a lot, and a lot of the nurses follow me and listen to my podcast. And I somehow, like, one nurse or a manager or something mentioned it in the hospital newsletter. So out of the blue, I hadn't even started releasing new episodes, and I have listeners up, like, my numbers are getting up like crazy. I'm like, "I'm not doing anything." Like,
That's
yeah,
awesome. So
yeah,
now I'm thinking, where else can you push the information? Maybe there's associations local to you for disabled folks that you can say, hey, I have this free content that people can check out. Plug
yeah,
me. Thank you.
exactly.
I love it. So, what are some things that you're considering additionally as you're going into this new season and shifting the format of your podcast?
I'm using a website that I found you on called Podmatch. It's a great site. It allows you to, I guess it's a dating site for podcasters.
Yes.
Yeah. You can find some people that are fantastic and a perfect fit for your show. Other people, you can meet them and you can say, that's great to meet you, but I really don't think that it's a fit. When I was first starting out, I was just going on YouTube. I was like, how to start a podcast. And there's videos about all you need is a mic and just start talking. And you have a podcast. And it's like, okay, it's a little more complicated than that. But yeah, I discovered this website called Buzzsprout, and they do great things for me. They help me get on to a number of different platforms and things like that. I Everybody is talking about how helpful YouTube can be, but I'm not that big on YouTube. I love watching YouTube, but I'm not big on the idea of having a video show. I like to think I have a face for radio. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I just like the idea of having a radio show.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that especially with the push, YouTube is pushing video, Spotify's pushing video, all of these places are pushing video. And I've told clients, if you're not comfortable with video, then don't do it. Just put all of your energy and your passion behind the microphone, and that is going to come through. You don't have to be a video podcast if you don't want to.
Yeah, and I think I have been contemplating more and more of using video mediums as advertising, like
Mhm.
TikTok, like just doing something completely unrelated to the podcast and be like, "Hey, I have a podcast." Yeah.
Yes. There's so many different ways to put your content out there, right? We're recording this and it will be video, but say that we were recording it and we're not going to use the video. We could still take video snippets from it and see, like, we're using Riverside to record this. I know Riverside has their AI clips that you can create and put out there as here's the podcast and then redirect people to listen to the show without having to have a video podcast. Another recommendation I gave a friend who was feeling frustrated with this was just take your phone and press record. Are you struggling with this? Here's what this week's episode is about. Just record yourself talking about this week's episode. we put so much pressure on ourselves, especially as content creators, as podcasters, to be in all the places, to adhere to all the different mediums. We are already putting so much time and effort into our shows. How can we just pull from what we already have and make
Yeah.
less work for ourselves?
Absolutely, and that's why I love the development of AI. It's the ability that AI has to make good advertisements, sect your podcast into certain sessions and summarize your interviews. I use AI for podcast titles. I'm like,
Mhm.
come up with a witty title about mental health or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love AI for those. I like to think of it as my unpaid intern, right? Like, it's just there to kinda help me not have a blank page in front of me, get some ideas going, and then usually I'll go in and say, "Take that away. No, I like that. Let's keep this part. Nope, I wanna rewrite this different." So still taking that human element to it, but
Yeah,
at least having a starting point
yeah.
really helps me.
I think he was on Saturday Night Live. I saw this video about how this one woman absolutely loves AI, but she's a bit fearful of it and wants to be on the good side of it when it inevitably takes over.
That's great. I mean,
Yeah,
that's really helpful to my AI.
definitely.
People pleasing with the AI.
Yeah.
Hollis, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for sharing about the work you're doing and your podcasting journey. Where can people listen to your show and learn more about the work that you do?
Yeah, well, my podcast, 21st Century Disability, is available anywhere you get your podcasts, and not on YouTube, but anywhere else that you get your podcasts. You can visit 21st Century Disability.com, and 21st is 21ST. And you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook and Blue Sky, all at 21st Century Disability. But Blue Sky is a bit more of a complex handle. It's like 21 cent disability. Yeah.
No worries. We'll make sure that we have all of that linked in the show notes for anyone who is driving or doing other things while they're listening or watching us. So, Hollis, thank you so much. This has been really wonderful, and I'm excited to see more of the work that you do.
Thank you. I think your podcast is fantastic. So keep doing it.